You don't need to worry about trying to demonstrate how your skills and background are going to benefit the company as much as how it's going to benefit the person interviewing you. If you go on Reddit or watch technical interview prep videos on YouTube, almost all of it centers exclusively on the technical or algorithms part of the interview. I get it, the whiteboard and algorithms part of the interview is probably the most daunting and stressful and takes the longest to prepare for, but they're overlooking a major piece of the pie. And in this video, I want to talk to you guys about how we can use that to your advantage to stand out. By the way, I got a new mic. Let me know what you think about the audio quality. When I went to a hiring event hosted by Amazon, they spent at least 75% of the time regurgitating how important the company's leadership values are to the culture and how they're looking for those particular qualities in their candidates. Because software developers, especially the new ones, are so preoccupied with the technical portion of the interview, they tend to neglect the soft skills, and I think this can be your competitive advantage. And not only that, but having good soft or communication skills will help you immensely even with the technical part of the interviews. When I was interviewing for my current role, I had 4 different interviews. I had a phone screen, and then I had a take-home assignment. I had a behavioral interview, and I also had a technical interview. So if you think about it, the non-technical or behavioral part of the interview comprised something like 25% of the entire process. And so it is a big chunk of how you're being evaluated overall. I remember in one particular video, the YouTuber tech lead said that he'll decide within a few minutes of meeting you whether or not he likes you, and if your first impression with him is positive and he likes you, he gives you easier questions.
Because usually within the first 1 to 2 minutes of meeting a candidate, I already know whether I would be giving the candidate a recommendation to move forward or a rejection.
Even though I don't agree with a lot of things that the tech lead says, I think this is a really profoundly honest admission. Very few recruiters or interviewers are going to admit that they're going to give you easier technical questions based on the first few seconds of meeting you and whether or not they like you. You probably think to yourself, well, this isn't really fair. I mean, why would you give someone easier technical questions based on whether or not you like them? And I completely agree. It's not fair, but what I've come to realize is that this is human nature. It applies to a lot of situations outside of technical interviews. Studies have shown over and over again that people tend to have gut reactions or make snap judgments of other people within a few seconds of meeting them based on what they look like, their body language, what they're wearing, etc. And once they have this first impression of you, it's really difficult to change their mind, and you're going to be fighting an uphill battle. And that's why the first impression is so critical. We make a decision based on emotion first, and then we use logic to justify it. Imagine you're hiring for a position at your company, and the person you're interviewing shows up wearing baggy, ripped clothes, gives you a weak handshake, doesn't make any eye contact. This happens more often than you think, by the way. Subconsciously, you're going to have a gut reaction to this guy or girl, and due to confirmation bias, you're going to be looking for clues throughout the entire interview process to confirm this first initial impression. Or maybe you think you're different and you don't have these biases, but the vast majority of people do. Chances are, even your interviewer, who is the tech lead at Google or Facebook, and they have this really fancy title, they're still subject to these human biases and snap judgments. So stack the cards in your favor. Obviously, there are things that you can't control. Like, people will judge you based on your gender, your ethnicity, or the fact that you look like someone they don't like. You can just focus on things that you can control, right? You can show up 10 minutes early, dress appropriately for the company, not overdressed or underdressed. And if you're remote, ensure that the technical side is taken care of, like your internet connection is strong, your camera works, your mic works, stuff like that. People hire people they like, and there's almost no case where someone is going to choose an engineer that's technically proficient but a complete jerk and a nightmare to work with. Unless you are on the online assessment portion of the interview, you need to remember this. you are ultimately talking to a human, not a robot. And this human has the same biases, preferences, and shortfalls as you do. You need to stop thinking of your interviews as simply a test you need to pass. Instead, think of it as like a first date or a sales call. Your primary goal should be to assess if it's truly a good fit and how your particular set of skills and background is going to benefit the person interviewing you. Now, this might sound a little crazy, but I'm gonna just go as far as to say that don't even worry about trying to demonstrate how your skills are going to benefit the company. Ultimately, people mostly just care about themselves, so appeal to their sense of self-interest. In the popular book, The Daily Laws by Robert Greene, he claims that the quickest way to secure people's minds is by demonstrating, as simply as possible, how an action will benefit them. Self-interest is the strongest motive of all. Are you gonna make them look good to their superiors? Are you going to make their lives easy, but not outshine them, if you know what I mean? So, how do you prepare for the behavioral part of the interview process? Well, what I would personally do is look up some common behavioral interview questions that these big tech companies ask. And they tend to ask a lot of the same questions. And you would tailor your answers to the particular role and the company values that you can find online easily. Just like LeetCode questions, the benefit of this is that a lot of the questions tend to fall into the same general themes, and your answer can apply for lots of the same questions, right? So for example, these questions all fall under the theme of conflict resolution. From my personal experience, these were the most common themes, right? So resolving a conflict with a coworker or superior, how your background applies to the role and how it benefits the company, and describe like a technical challenge that you overcame in a previous project or role, and finally something about like why you want to work at X company and where you see yourself in 5-10 years. The vast majority of behavioral questions fall into these few categories, right? And once you have a really good, solid, detailed personal story for each of these themes, you can modify your answer to the unique question. Be prepared to go in depth into the situation and technical details if you need to. I remember this one time when I prepared a vague story or like a vague description of the technical challenges that I had to deal with in a previous role, and I didn't flesh out the details. And when they started drilling me about why the performance was lagging, or what tech stack I was using, I was kind of blindsided and I didn't really know how to answer because I didn't prepare for that and I wasn't really sure. That being said, do not try to memorize word for word your answers to these interview questions. This doesn't work for LeetCode, right? And it doesn't work here. You're just going to sound really robotic and inauthentic. Instead, what you want to do is have bullet points memorized. Like I said, an answer can be used for an entire theme or group of questions, and if you have bullet points memorized, you can kind of modify them on the spot. Be prepared to get really technical and detailed so that you don't panic. You don't have to make up some BS story on the spot, but the bullet points leave enough room for you to sound natural. Anyways, in the near future, I will be doing a video on some common behavioral interview questions and answers, so definitely watch out for that one. But that's all I have for you today. Thanks so much for watching, and I will talk to you guys very soon. Bye.